Well, greetings, Series 6 test takers. This is Colin Kleck, and in our session today, our learning objectives include discussing the different types of corporate bonds, the types of U.S. government bonds, municipal bonds, and we'll wrap up discussing money market instruments. Corporate bonds can either be secured or unsecured. Secured corporate bonds are backed by something tangible. For example, a mortgage bond is backed by the physical properties owned by the corporation. An equipment trust certificate is backed by equipment owned by the issuer. Usually, equipment trust certificates are issued by very large transportation companies like airlines and railroads. Finally is a collateral trust bond, or often referred to as a collateral trust certificate. These are corporate bonds that are secured or backed by the parent company's stock. They are taken out by a subsidiary. Unsecured corporate bonds are backed by the good faith or the goodwill of the corporation. So the credit rating that we looked at by Moody's and Standard & Poor's is very important. And types of unsecured bonds can include a traditional debenture or unsecured bond, a convertible bond that is convertible into common stock of the same issuer's corporation common stock, right? And then we have a zero coupon bond. And this is a bond that is issued at a discount to par value in the primary market and then doesn't pay interest payments over the life of the bond and matures at par value. Our U.S. government can also raise money by issuing debt. The U.S. government is the largest and safest issuer of debt in the world because it's never defaulted on a loan. They have T-bonds, T-bills, and T-notes. Treasury bonds are long-term. Treasury notes mature in 2 to 10 years, and Treasury bills are short-term, maturing in 1 year or less. So the length of duration, shortest to longest, would be T-bills, T-notes, and T-bonds. Our agency debt, whether it's Ginnie Mae, Fannie Mae, or Freddie Mac, remember Ginnie Mae pass-through certificates provide monthly income that is backed by the U.S. government. That means that it's backed by the full faith, credit, and taxing authority of the United States government. That's why they've never defaulted on a loan. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, those are private corporations just sponsored by the United States government. They did go into government conservatorship, but they weren't backed by the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the U.S. government like Ginnie Mae pass-through certificates are. With municipal debt and general obligation and revenue bonds, a general obligation bond is a bond that is going to be federally tax-free when it comes to interest income. And it's backed by the state tax collected, whether it's your state income tax or ad valorem tax, property tax for local bonds. GO bonds would be something like a school. State income tax may back a state level bond. But if I live in a certain town and municipality and I get taxed for a school, that's ad valorem property tax, right? Local communities. So municipalities can also issue revenue bonds. Again, their interest income is exempt from federal taxation, but they are backed by revenues such as tolls, user fees, and concessions. Think of toll roads. That's what would back a revenue bond. Money market debt instruments are short-term debt instruments, things like T-bills. Commercial paper, which is short-term corporate debt that matures in 270 days or less. Commercial paper, short-term commercial debt. And then negotiable CDs. With municipal debt, we also have short-term tax-free debt. We call those municipal notes. You'll see them abbreviated like RAN, TAN, BAN, GAN, CLN, construction loan note, tax anticipation note. For example, RAN is a revenue anticipation note. Today our learning objectives have been talking about corporate bonds, those bonds that are unsecured and secured bonds. We've also looked at U.S. government debt instruments, T-bills, T-notes, and T-bonds. We've looked at really quickly municipal bonds. Both are general obligation and revenue bonds and how one is taxed at the state level and not the federal level. These items will be covered very heavily on your Series 6 exam, and money market debt instruments will also be tested heavily on your Series 6 and SIE and Series 7 exam. So understanding these concepts thoroughly will help you to pass your Series 6 on the first try. Now that you've completed this session, make sure that you go over to millionairesintraining.com and wrap up with our practice exam simulators. Click the check answer box and make sure you're reinforcing the information by reading the explanation moving through the questions. Don't cut corners. Make sure you really understand these concepts. And if you're having trouble, go through some of our practice tests that we've reviewed on the channel to really grasp these concepts as we go through live testing banks on Millionaires in Training to answer these explanations and help you get a better understanding for these if you're not necessarily grasping just the explanation and reading and quizzing over and over. We want you to understand these concepts so they stick in a way that you never forget them and you'll remember them throughout the rest of your career. Well done, warrior. We'll see you in the next video.